Hey guys, this is Ryan from resume2offer.com. Happy New Year. What is it? January 2nd, 2025. So today, thought we'd do a very special training talking about how to break into cybersecurity. This is cybersecurity industry. If you're looking to become an engineer, if you're looking to become sales, if you're looking in a different area, we're going to talk about all these different things and some tips that I would recommend on how to break into cybersecurity, the industry, in 2025 and beyond. If this is your first time coming to this channel, welcome. I'm Ryan, host of resume2offer.com, kind of a bit of a career consultant, but I've also been cybersecurity, an account executive. I've also been a head of talent. So I've hired hundreds and hundreds of people in this sector. I had a team of 8 recruiters working under me when I was at the prime doing this. And I built one company, for example, that was 25 people going all the way to 400 people within the company. And that company actually got sold recently. So we're going to be talking about it. So I've been a hiring manager. I've been in the sales area as well. I've been recruiting in the cybersecurity space. I've worked in kind of government contracting cybersecurity. So we're going to be talking about a few tips that I've seen. I've also helped coach, at this point in time, over 500 people get jobs in this space. And kind of started doing a little bit of helping career consulting during COVID. That's kind of where it started, and it kept escalating since then. So for the last, 4 to 5 years now, what has it been, 5 years? My God, 5 years. Yeah, we've had about over 500. It's actually close to 600, but we've had that many people get jobs from this advice. So it's been really worthwhile. So I hope you guys can, learn a few things. I'm going to talk about some things that we've seen in the market recently, some tips. We're going to go over a few different areas. We're going to talk about cybersecurity knowledge. We're going to talk about sales and professional skills, because if you're going to get a job, you have to sell yourself to the company. You're selling your services, so you need to have a little bit of sales skills there, okay? So that's why it's important. We're going to talk about networking. We're going to be talking about entry points, where to look for in the company. And then we're going to be talking about your resume. Make sure it's got to be ATS compliant. We're going to describe that. And we're going to be talking about interview skills, okay? So those 6 essential areas just to kick off the new year, okay? If it sounds like I'm a little out of my voice, it's because I'm obviously it's back to work today and I've been talking nonstop, so my voice might be a little bit hoarse, but it's very, very exciting. We got a lot of goals this year. My daughter Chloe, a lot of her first, which I'm really excited about. I'm looking at a swim run in the Pacific Northwest. That'll be really fun. It's 15-degree water, so that'll be at the end of the year. I'll be doing that, but a lot of cool. This is the time to make some goals. So if you're looking to start a new job, break into cybersecurity, whether as an engineer or operations or sales, I hope this is helpful. What I would recommend is that you watch this in its entirety first and then come back and rewrite the notes. That's what I would recommend. That's actually you're going to get the most benefit from it, is number one, hearing it, and then hearing it again in a new unit at a time, and then looking at the notes. After we're done doing that, then I would recommend looking at your notes and teaching it to yourself, saying it out loud and saying it in your own words. That's actually how your brain, you create the most neural pathways that way. And I could talk about that all day, but let's talk about cybersecurity. So first and foremost, let's talk about cyber knowledge. Right now in the cybersecurity industry, why should you think about kind of jumping into this? Because right now, cybersecurity, the industry itself is escalating. It's growing right now. So even if you join a small cybersecurity company, it's going to grow. One of the biggest things after coaching a bunch of people in this space, a lot of people pick the wrong company to join, and you don't want to make that mistake. So it starts with the industry, then the company, then the product. You want to make sure that you're always joining the first industry. The industry is growing. It's on a trend upward. You can find out stuff like this from Crunchbase. You can find out stuff like this from Yahoo Finance. Even ChatGPT and Google are good, references to see if an industry is growing. Okay, so some easy ones that people are looking at is like AI. Everybody's kind of joining the AI. Not a lot of people are joining the cybersecurity space. So cybersecurity is going to be growing 20 to 40% over the next year. It's going to be growing even more, up to 50% over the next 3 to 5 years. That's huge. That means a lot of jobs. Okay, in every area. So if you're looking at stuff that's like recession proof, inflation, all those things, cybersecurity is a good bet. So you want to make sure that you're looking in that industry first. Then you look at the companies, and you always want to make sure you're picking the right companies that have the best growth right now. Okay, Some parameters, what I look for is the length of the company, how long they've been open, the size of the company. Usually the sweet spot of when companies grow is between 50 to 200. Nothing wrong with going with a big company as well. Nothing wrong with that, but be aware of startups, just kind of be aware of it. Does it have the right product market fit? Is the product in demand in the marketplace? So you always got to be asking those type of questions. So how do you get cybersecurity knowledge? All right. So when joining cybersecurity, whether as an engineer or operations or as a salesperson, when I was hiring people, one of the biggest things that we'd always look for is the first primary certification, which is CompTIA Security Plus. Okay? CompTIA Security Plus, if you have that, it's relatively easy. It's like 40 multiple choice questions. If you get that and you put it at the top of your resume, don't put it in the bottom by education. You want it right at the title. So, if you have at the title at the top of your resume, you have your name, your email, your LinkedIn, the location where you're at. You always want to make sure you put your location in city and state. If you're in another country, put, whatever's the biggest city around you. And then you also want to put Sec Plus certified. That is very, very essential, and it'll help you stand out from every other candidate. Okay, so that's number one. You're also going to gain knowledge in cybersecurity from doing this. The second way you can do it is you have to understand the basics. Okay, start making your own encyclopedia. I would recommend you start doing research. Look at blogs, look at articles, look at other people's YouTube. Look at, you can chat GPT a lot of this stuff and create your own encyclopedia. But you want to look up stuff like risk management framework, the different steps, 1 through 6. You want to look at what VPN means, endpoint security, threat intelligence. Okay, you want to look at cybersecurity with hardware, software, cloud, different variants. You don't need to be a pro, but you need to know the basics. And the reason why you want to know the basics is because whenever you join a company, there is a learning curve. Okay, so you're gonna have to learn this stuff anyway if you join a cybersecurity company. There's always a learning curve of 3 to 6 months of kind of learning that, everything about that industry or this space. So if you can show to the company that you've already know the basics, it's going to make you stand out as a great candidate compared to everybody else. Okay. So another thing I would recommend, there's an easy certification on Coursera. It's called Foundations of Cybersecurity. It's like Cybersecurity 101. This will give you a good information about cybersecurity, a good well-rounded information, and it gives you a certification that you could put in the education section of your resume. Okay, so that's one idea that you can do, but you want to really immerse yourself. All that stuff, I definitely put some, do I have it? Some podcasts. If people are into podcasts, I'm into podcasts. I do tours around the house, I'm listening to stuff. If I'm driving, I'm listening to stuff. So some podcasts, CyberWire Daily is a good one. Unsupervised Learning is another good one. Security Now and Smashing Security. 4 good podcasts. And what you want to do is every time they mention a word, a phrase, an acronym, something that you didn't really understand, write it down, put it in your phone. Come back to your encyclopedia and start researching and expanding on that idea. You will fill in the gaps in your knowledge base so fast from just doing that. So you got to make sure you have some general foundation of cybersecurity knowledge that both you can put on paper and stuff that you can bring to the table when you're in your interview. It's going to showcase you as a great candidate. Okay? So that's number 1, cyber knowledge. Sales and professional skills. So if you're looking into cybersecurity sales, obviously you got to have sales skills. And even if you don't, you need to have what's called, basically what we call soft skills. It's the skills that have to do with any type of organization, right? Your leadership skills, your organization skills, your public speaking skills. When you're in an interview, a lot of people don't really connect the dots that when you're interviewing, you are selling yourself. You're selling your services to the company. They have to make a decision if you're a good investment, okay? What's going to be the return on investment to you? They're going to spend $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 on your salary, plus it's an extra 20% if there's benefits, okay? Are you going to bring that much back to the company as well as more? Okay, so you always have to think in terms of that because that's how they're looking at it from a bottom line figure. So you want to build your sales and your professional skills. If you're trying to get into cybersecurity sales, obviously I recommend making sure to look at those tools that are in the marketplace. Make sure you have HubSpot or Salesforce CRM skills. Make sure you have LinkedIn Sales Navigator skills. Skills. If you're looking to get professional skills, okay, sometimes the old methods are the best because some of those old school methods, the people that are making the decisions, the C-suite people, okay, the chief, CEO, COO, those guys, they use those same sources to better their skills to get to where they are. So if you can actually talk to them in terms of that, that's going to make you stand out as an excellent candidate. So for example, check out things like Brian Tracy. Brian Tracy has a lot of good books and audio programs on sales skills, some beginning sales skills that you can utilize. Dale Carnegie, right? Old school, how to win friends and influence people. He also has ones on public speaking and conversation. Strongly recommend that. One of my favorites, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Really good book. By the way, if you don't have your bachelor's or master's or certifications, this is a really good way that you can actually showcase some of your skills. You put supplemental education on your resume in the education section, and you want to add 3 or 4 books that are associated with those soft skills. Supplemental education, it's also really good to show kind of your well-roundedness as a candidate, okay? So we talked about Dale Carnegie, Brian Tracy, Stephen Covey. Also, I would recommend Your Wish is Your Command audio series. Okay, this was a big impact on me, helped me out in every facet of life. It's like 14 different audios, 14 lessons in there. If you want, check out in the description if you want a link to it, okay? I did a review on this channel beforehand. It's one of the top courses of all time, basically, in my opinion. And it will help you in every area. So definitely check that out as well. So you got to make sure that you have some basic sales skills, but also professional soft skills that you can bring to the table, okay? For leadership, there's a lot of leadership skills. One of my favorites is Mark Devine, called The Way of the SEAL. He was a Navy SEAL commander. I know him. He was actually a family friend. It's a long story short, but yeah, I used to, there's a lot of stuff, but he has a book that was a bestseller called The Way of the SEAL. And it talks a lot about leadership. Strongly recommend that, okay? That's a really good one. Third thing, networking. Your network is your net worth, okay? Networking is how a lot of stuff gets done. When you're doing your job outbound prospecting, when you're doing your job hunting, a lot of people they start doing networking and they think, I'm just going to network so I can get a referral, right? That is good, but what's better is if you do your networking correctly, you're building a network for not just for the next year, it's for the next 20 years. If you really want to build a real solid career, you want to have a network of 200 people that you know in this industry space that cover a lot of different areas of the market, and 50 people that you have good, close personal relationships with in your career. People that you know they can always give you a reference or give you market information. That's kind of the best way you can do it. So 50 solid people like your A's, and 200 people total that you kind of it's just friendly, chatter, friendly conversation. That's kind of the best way to do it. Ideally, this network covers all areas of cybersecurity, or there's cybersecurity engineers in private internal companies as well. It's a great way to go. So how do you do this networking? Obviously, LinkedIn is kind of king here. You could do LinkedIn marketing. I would recommend when you're starting off, you're doing 1 or 2 informational, just conversations, professional networking, meets per week. That's what I would recommend. When you're starting off, you can kind of decrease that over time as you start meeting a lot of people, but that you really want to have a strong network. And by the way, yes, if you have a referral into a company, it is 10 times better than not having it, okay? When I was doing a lot of hiring, I'm looking through resumes, I'm looking through our ATS, I'm looking through different people. If I got a referral from somebody else, that person got to the front of the line. So you want to utilize your referrals. And usually the person gets a kickback too, so it's a win-win. So you want to look at LinkedIn, you want to look at LinkedIn groups, you want to attend different events. Okay, look at events in your local area. If you live in a big, major city, these are all over the place, both small ones and big ones. You can look at the big conferences, you can look at career fairs, You can look at small meetups from meetup.com. You can look at people who are in tech and cyber. There's a bunch of them all over. And this is a great way that you can start just networking and making contacts, following up lightly, and just start building that list of people that you can kind of, touch base with once in a while or get good information and, really bounce around ideas, okay? I would recommend also, as a recruiter, that you look at other areas where you can, if you're into certain things, get into those meetups. I have gotten so many clients from just kind of the things that I'm passionate about. I'm into like biohacking and fitness and things like that. I've gotten clients, I'm talking about big clients, like big company clients and accounts from just mutual acquaintances in some of these meetups, from CrossFit. I got my CrossFit shirt on. CrossFit. Another one is like in the biohacking world. There's a lot of great meetups. Another one that I would recommend for guys is called F3. If you look up f3nation.com, great group. It's completely free. They meet up for workouts, 2 to 3 times a week. They're in like every major city. And I've had, it's a lot of people who are in business in this area. And I've met a lot of people from that. So strongly recommend utilize that social activity in your local community, okay? So that's networking. Let's talk about entry points. So a lot of people are trying to get into cybersecurity sales, which I would recommend if you're having trouble getting a job as an engineer operations. They're always looking for good salespeople. And it's a great way that you can learn an industry. You can learn everything about the industry and the product information. You can also better your skills and, potentially make good money while you're doing it. Because I was such a good recruiter at the time, the company I was working with even offered to pay for education for me to become an engineer if I wanted to. It wasn't really my cup of tea, but those are some examples where you want to just get into the company. Ideally, you want to stay there for 2 to 3 years, before you kind of reassess if you want to switch to a new position within the company or leverage it to go with a bigger brand. Okay, so you always want to make sure that getting in is really the hardest part. But once you're in, stay there for a while. Really, the people that are like the top 20% of the company, people, good companies want to keep good talent. They want to keep good people because it's a cost thing as well. So if you become the top 20% producers in that company, or just the top 20% in your general area, if you're like, it's a big marketing team, but you become that one of the top 20% marketers, then they're going to want to keep you. They're going to want to give you promotions, but also they're going to want to know what is the career trajectory you want. And if you can let them know, actually, I really want to get into engineering, they'll start paving a way for you to keep you and start testing you in the engineering department. So that's another way you can go. You don't always have to go the straight path. Sometimes it goes a little bit roundabout. Some areas that you can look into. So you can look into inside sales, SDR, BDR. You can look into an operations associate. You can look into an outbound marketing associate. You can look into a network engineer. If you're looking into cybersecurity engineering, you look into network engineering. Look at that as a first point. They see cybersecurity associate. You can look in there. Cybersecurity internship. Internships, a lot of people don't know that if you're an intern, they have to give you a job at the end of that internship. Okay, so sometimes internships, especially if it's a temporary one, I would not choose an internship that's like a whole year or 2 years or something like that. The sweet spot's like 3 to 6 months. 3 to 6 month window, and then it leads to a job. It's a great way to get into, especially in the cybersecurity engineering space. In sales, I don't think you need an internship. You can get in right as an SDR. Okay, so just heads up there. Another way you can do it is kind of my method. Get in to be as a recruiter. It is an excellent way that you can build your sales skills. You get commission-based. You learn everything about the industry. You're talking to everybody in the company as well as other client companies all around. It's a great way to build your network. So you can look into being a recruiter, talent acquisition associate, okay? A lot of different things that you can do there. So those are some entry points to kind of consider. You want to make sure that when you're looking at a company, look at the company growth, look at the areas that they're going to need people. Okay, so if you see the job ads, maybe they just need a lot of salespeople. Cool, you can go that method. But you want to identify sometimes the best way to do it and to sell yourself is that you look at a company You look at the makeup of the company, the different departments, okay? They have a sales department, they have an engineering department, okay? And then you look at, hey, actually, they don't have a finance department, or they don't have a marketing department. They don't have a recruiting department, okay? And then you introduce yourself and you work that way. This is actually how I got my job in cybersecurity. I went to a company, I noticed they didn't have a recruiting department. Their project manager was taking care of all the hiring. I sold myself. I started off as a recruiter, grew as a recruiter, did really well, and we grew the whole department over the period of a few years to 8 people, whole machine as recruitment. Okay, and so it was basically, I showcased something that like, hey, I think you need this, and here's why. So that's one other method that you can use, but you gotta look for those entry points. You can do this for anything. Look at your own skills, unless you already have an idea of where you wanna map out to. But that's kind of a way that you can do it and sell yourself to those companies. All right, let's talk about your resume. So let me take a swig actually, because I haven't eaten all day. I need some protein. You know, on a personal level, I realized I'm listening to all these health podcasts, and I'm supposed to be eating like 200 grams of protein every day, which to me is insane. I don't know how anybody does that. I'm like on average, I guess 100, and I have like steak almost every night, but it's kind of like, and apparently I gotta eat more protein. Anyway, so let's talk about resumes. If this is the first time your channel, welcome again. I've talked a lot about the applicant tracking system. What is that? The applicant tracking system is a software that basically takes all the resumes the company's getting and condenses them to a short list. So because like the recruiters, they can't look at thousands of resumes all the time and do the interviews and do, all this type of, hiring all the time. They only have a limited amount of time. So what it does is it takes that giant stack, it searches all the resumes for certain keywords, key terms, phrases. There's a few other things too. And then it shortlists them. It gives them like, hey, here's the top 100 that we found that will have the highest probability of success in hiring. And then the recruiter goes through the top 100 and he shortens it even down further to top 50. And those top 50 are the ones that get the first phone call. And then it keeps going from there. But this is why you need to be very aware of what key terms you need to have on your resume. Number one, you want to make sure that you're researching your employers. You're researching the job descriptions. You're finding the commonalities of terms and especially acronyms. A lot of acronyms actually are in ATS databases. So for example, a lot of people say, I want to be a sales professional, okay? Actually, the key term in the ATS that they look for is SDR, the acronym version of that. So you want to make sure you have SDR somewhere on your resume. Same thing with a lot of stuff. You want to make sure you have SEC Plus. You want to make sure you have the right tools. If you're looking at like risk management framework, you want to make sure it's RMF. It has the acronym there. So you got to make sure you have your right key terms that are in place. Easiest way that you can do it if you're kind of like, I'm kind of stuck, what do? You want to analyze 10 different companies. I would recommend you look at the enterprise level, large, medium. You start looking at those 10 companies. You analyze, okay, what is on the description, the about section of their LinkedIn. Then you look at the positions that they're advertising that you want to get into. Analyze those 10 LinkedIns. What are the common phrases? What is the common vocabulary that they all have? What are the common tools that they utilize on a day-to-day basis? Those keywords are ones you want to start implementing and layering into your resume, okay? Easy ones to kind of look into in the space, especially if you're looking into sales, CrowdStrike, Rapid7. 2 easiest ones you can look at. Ideally, when you're doing right now with job hunting, what we've started seeing is it's a mixture of quality and quantity. Quality meaning you have the right skills, your interview skills are on point, you have the right background, you have the right, your resume's put together, but also quantity. You're doing enough volume. The days of doing like 1 or 2 applications a month, it's kind of done. On average, what we've seen is that people who are doing 6 to 10 applications a day consistently over 30, 60, 90 days, those are the ones that get jobs. So that, if you think about it, that's a lot of companies. So you want to make sure that you have a lead list of a lot of different companies, hundreds of companies in cybersecurity that you already have an interest in. Okay, and then you separate in priority, the ones that you really want to go for, the ones that are like your B list, your C list, and you also keep segmenting it into like enterprise level, large, and small, medium-sized business. Okay, so those are some ideas that you can do, but you want to do 6 to 10 applications a day. You want to make sure your resume is on point. If you're not really sure, I give away some free templates. You can check out in the description below. There's a link to a Google Drive where I give you free templates. There's about like 7 or 8 in there of different tools that you can utilize. If you're like, I don't know what template to use, you can use those. Okay. So, interview skills. You have to make sure that you know how to talk to the people who make the decisions in the company. Okay. If it's a small, medium-sized business, it's going to be the C-suite people. It's going to be your chief information security officer. It's going to be your chief technical officer. It's going to be your chief operations officer, your chief executive officer, your C-suite people. You got to know how to talk to them. You also need to know if it's a bigger company, enterprise level, right? You might actually be talking to the mid-level people, the mid-management. So you have to understand who's doing the actual decision making. Same thing with sales. You have to understand who makes the decision at the end of the day. What are the things they're looking for, right? Obviously, it depends on the role, the company culture that you're trying to get into, but some easy things is you got to have a level of confidence. You have to have a level of confidence going into any company that you can bring some value to it. You're bringing value, but you don't know it all. You're not a know-it-all type of person. You're not telling other people that like, oh yeah, look at me. You're not bringing your ego into the conversation. You're leaving your ego at the door. You're bringing it with confidence, but you're teachable. You still have a lot to learn. You can't wait to learn more. You're excited to be in this space, and you think you can bring a lot of value to the company. That's like the balance of the vibe when you enter any type of interview. Okay, that's what they're looking for. You want to make sure that you understand regulatory compliance. This is probably the area that most people don't know about is regulatory compliance, regulations, because it's not the sexy stuff you hear in cybersecurity, but it is very essential. You also want to understand the cost of data breaches. Okay, this is kind of like similar to insurance. When I was doing cybersecurity sales, we would sell our services because, hey, if you don't use us, here's the cost of a data breach. It's millions and millions and millions of dollars. It's also lack of, you lose trust with your clients, trust with your customers, your brand image goes down. But if you use us and here's our cost, it's about $50,000 a year, right? This way it's going to maintain like safety amongst the entire organization. Okay, so you don't have to like worry about it at night. That's kind of like the mini sales pitch, but you need to understand that they look at cybersecurity a lot of the times as the cost of a data breach. So be aware of some of these terminologies as well as regulatory compliance, okay? You wanna make sure you're networking, part of your whole thing, depending on who you wanna network with. If you're targeting people on LinkedIn, I would target the people who are the heads of departments of the area that you wanna get into, as well as some of the C-suite. Occasionally go after the C-suite, small, medium-sized business, go after the CEOs, CISOs, CTOs. If it's the bigger companies, go after the department heads of, like, say, if I want to be a marketing, hey, I'm trying to get into marketing, then you look at the marketing manager, the marketing director, or chief of marketing, right? So you're always going after the head of those departments. Okay. We're almost at 30 minutes. I hope this is helpful. I think I just gave you a fire hose of information. If you want more help, if you need a little bit of extra, feel free to check out some of the resources below. I give a few things. You can check out my website. If you need additional resources, there's some boot camps I do recommend, especially if you're trying to get in sales. But happy to oblige. Feel free to reach out to me. You can send me an email. Hit me up on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, happy to chat there. And if you need to add an extra network, happy to do that. But I hope this was helpful. It's going to be a fun 2025. Oh man, I'm stoked. It's going to be a good year. And definitely always feel free to send me a message with feedback, okay? All right, guys, take care. Have a great one. Let's make 2025 a great year. Cheers.